Okay. Okay. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to all. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to all. Good evening to those who are looking and to those who are now joining. I am Dr. Matthews, live from Guyana. Welcome to the GMS Live Voice of Democracy and the GMS Live Radio Guyana. Welcome to you all. I know it's been a little while and since the radio has been on. The radio has not been activated for the past 5 days. But to those who listen via the online radio, you will hear me tonight. Let me know if you're getting me straight, live, and direct. Give me a thumbs up. Welcome to you all. So as I take a while before you, not a while, but at least 30 seconds before you join in, let me reintroduce myself to those who are now joining. This is Dr. Gavin Matthews on the GMS Live Radio Guyana and the GMS Live Voice of Democracy, live streaming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. A very pleasant good evening to you all, to those who are now joining. As a matter of fact, I want to say good evening from Guyana to the Caribbean Isles, the West Indian Isles, the Pacific Isles, the British Virgin Isles, the US Virgin Isles, Mexico, US, Canada, UK, EU, Beijing, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan. To those who are looking from the Korean Peninsula, a very pleasant evening and night to you. To those who are looking from the Australian continent, and before I meet there, to those from Tajikistan and Uzbekistan and Pakistan and India, and to the Isles of New Zealand and Tonga, to the continent of Africa, and to the continent of South America, as far as way as Chile and Argentina, Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, Suriname, French and Dutch Guyana, the Netherlands. So welcome to you all, to those who are joining from Curacao and Trinidad and Tobago, and the Republic, oh yes, the Republic of Barbados. I want to say a very pleasant good evening to you, and tonight's topic is the black dollar. And I'm going to break it down into syllables. I'm going to dissect it line upon line and precept upon precept, and we're going to have a conversation on the black dollar. What is the black dollar? So I'm going to explain to you and help you to understand what is the black dollar. Uh, before we had the First and Second World War, we had what you call a bartering system, and the bartering system would have known as, you know, uh, Napoleon and all those who invaded certain parts of the world would have realized that business could not have been done other than bartering. Bartering is simple. If I have this cell phone that you're seeing here, and I want this knife that you have that you're seeing here, and I say, well, I make cell phones, we can trade. I can give you a phone and you give me a knife. Because the knife, I can't make knives, but I make cell phones. So what you had then, you had a bartering system where the continent of Africa realized, the Europeans then realized that the Africans wore clothing. However they saw it, they wore it. They had different fabrics. Some of them were cotton made, some of them were wool made out of wool, some of them were made out of skin, but they had clothing. In each and every culture that they went to, they realized that they had a different type of clothing. So, what the Europeans had done after the Second World War is to realize that the domination of the world should not be based upon wars and destructions of mankind and human beings, and you know what I mean. So they derived at what you called economic war. And knowing to themselves what is an economic war, they decided to sit down and study each culture and what these culture would have liked and what they wouldn't have liked so far. So they realized that every culture that they went into, that they tried to disrupt, as a matter of fact, they still hold on to their beliefs, the right to serve or praise whomsoever they feel like as their gods, the right to hold on to their language, and the right to hold on to their divinity. When I say divinity, I mean their values that we so talk about from time to time, right? So, what had happened? The only race that they would have sought out and wanted to like, to devalue them, was the African race. And why do I say so? Every other race that you can talk about, they were trying their hard best to colonize them. So what they did, they make sure that the colonization, that means the European culture, they had to take it to Africa. Because in their investigations, Africa didn't had clothing, they had resources. And mind you, 70% of the world's resources comes from the continent of Africa. Until to this day, it's more than 70, but 70%, it's roughly 73 point something percent of the world's consumable resources comes from Africa. As a matter of fact, every resource is consumed. It depends on how they consume it. So what had happened, they realized that those that they enslaved, the Africans, which is the largest race on the planet by population, they have enslaved. Africans outside of Africa, they have enslaved them so greatly that it's over tens of millions of them. Let me show you a simple instance. We're going to use the United States of America. The United States of America, populations of African, they call themselves African American, it's roughly 60 million. That's an entire country. And their estimated expenditure, monies that they spent per year, is roughly 1 trillion US dollars. So that's a market that no company would want to, hold on, wait for me, please. That's a market that no company would want to pass by because it's a lucrative market. Let us look at Brazil. Brazil has one of the largest populations, more larger than America, of Africans living outside of Africa. Its estimated economy of expenditure is roughly 1.2 trillion because it's very large. So what had happened, they realized in pockets of every country, the only race that you can sit down and study and to make money off of, it's the African race. That's why I say the black dollar. Without every, and I want those who are looking, a country that does not have a large population of Africans do not depend upon its citizens for taxes. And I can name one of them, France. France depends upon countries that they were once colonized but are indebted to them to survive because its citizens are not workable. They don't like to work. Majority of the Netherlands, their African populations is so small that they had to resort to different ways and means in order to have money because they do not have a working population of Africans. They do not. So those that are outside of these particular countries have that kind of population. You know what they do? They depend upon them for the circulation of the dollar. In every country that you speaks about, they depend upon the black population or the African population for the circulation of the dollar. The more the dollar is circulated is the better. But in order for the dollar to circulate, you have to remain poor. You cannot be rich because the minute you become rich, you don't want to work. You become lackadaisical, just like them. And then the world becomes an orderless world. It's out of order, it's chaos. So, in order for this to keep on this rotation, you have to have a working population of Africans because their backs are hard. They can create things, they can do things. Their minds are so equipped with creation that you want to keep them that way. So, what the Europeans did was to design a system for us to live by economically, politically, scientifically. Consumable goods means the Food and Drug Administration and the drugs. I'm going to show you this. We're going to start from the number one aspect, the food. They don't want us to eat the kind of food we were known and taught to eat because we will keep healthy all the time. Like how we used to be. We used to be the healthiest population on the earth. African continent. Then it was Kemet and Kush. It depends on which dynasty. Before it was renamed after the European general Africanus. So what happened back then, what we eat, it was to help us to stay healthy because we understood that a larger majority of our immune system rests within our digestive system. They tell you 70%, but it's not. It's roughly 85 to 90% of the immune system goes through the digestive system. That means what we eat depends upon what we eat. We stay healthy. If we eat garbage, well, then we will be unhealthy. We'll be a people sick, malnourished. But if we eat healthy, we will stay healthy, we live longer than we are expected to. So that's the first thing they did. Try to interrupt what we understand as being healthy for us to eat. Change our diet. They worked overtime for it because they want to control the food industry. So we can always eat the things that are unhealthy so it can push money in their pockets. So the first thing they did was awaken the taste bud. And how did they do that? By a item that you call sugar, sugar. By adding sugar in every item. Before I continue, I just wanted to let you know sugar is not part of our diet. It's not a consumable item because every fruit, green, vegetable we want to call it, has a level and amount of sugar in it that it produces naturally. So I want us to get that part. If we consume raw sugar, we build what we call mucus within our system, and our blood becomes inflamed. You call it inflammation. Guyanese, we call it pus. You know, that's how come a lot of us who use a lot of sugar have what we call abscess because our blood is inflamed. So we're talking about the food system. So that's the first thing they tackled. And then the second thing they tackled was to teach us and to tell us that the herbs in which we depend upon was sorcery, confuse our minds. And then we start being locked up and burnt at a stake for performing sorcery. Then they brought it down, sorcery means witchcraft. But but that medical sign that you see with the snake crawling up the stake, and they call it medical for the medical industry. Before it was known as the medical industry, it was the people who used to perform the same work with the same herbs that they call witch doctors or witchcraft. And the gypsies came and realized that that was the real thing. No matter how you twist it or turn it, because it's the only way you can be healed. What they did now was legalize it. They created a medical industry from their studies from Egypt, which is Africa, and legalize it so the medical industry can profit. So now you're not healed. You check it. Anything that you're drinking pertaining to medication does not heal you because you have to constantly take it all the time. You check those people who has cancer. They have lifelong medications that they have to take until maybe when they die. Dialysis for patients who are diabetic, and diabetic clinics. It is to continue to have you taking the same thing. That is to create finances within the medical industry. And believe you me, it all surrounds the darker race. There are a lot of people who are involved in it, yes, like the other races. It doesn't matter. But they see where to make money. So the dollar can keep circulating. And the next thing they did was to take our own patent away from us, our creation, and own it, then sell it right back to you, like the Gucci's and the Ralph Lauren and the Timberlands. How you think they learned to make booth? They didn't know that. Years ago, they had to went to the continent of Africa and realize that people were wrapping leather around their feet. So they take that patent and own it, stamp it, brand it. and then sell it right back to us, but with fame. Because if you buy a Gucci and you don't look good, if you don't wanna if you wanna look good and expensive, you gotta wear a Gucci. That's what they said. So they brand it and they put it into fame, and suddenly all these things are happening before your eyes. The same continent that went and realized that these people know about sailing across the Atlantic Ocean before us. They knew about boats. You know, there's a saying that says, if Hitler knew that iron can float, the things he would have done in that war. But he didn't knew. Who knew these things? Way before then, Africans. But they never live a colonized life. There were no colonialism. There were no borders. You weren't identified as which country you come from. You were identified from the family you're from. Like, for instance, you go to Africa and they say, "Oh, which house are you from?" "I'm from the house of Mozambique." Mozambique is a large family. Then people get to realize where you're from, how are you identified. There were no borders. There were identification of house, family, identity. So what they did, take that away from you by enslaving you. They didn't enslave you mentally, they enslaved you physically. It was a process. They realized they can bring you as an adult, but they didn't really want you, they want your children. So they can enforce their own education system upon your children. They can enforce their own branding upon your children and their own identification upon your children. They knew these things. Believe you me, they studied us. They did a good job studying us, but they failed to realize, and like every other people, the mind of a human being, that brain, in some persons it does not work, in some persons it does work. That brain wakes up after a while when it starts sensing. You can take away the ability to educate, but one thing you cannot take away is the subconsciousness of a human being. Somebody will sit down sometime or the other, someday, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and realize that they're living in a colonized system based upon European colonization. And that will spark war and rumors of war. It's like the great Lester Bob said, until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes, there will be war and rumors of war. And it's a fact. So we have them taking away the right to our own. Yeah, well, we can talk about the Bible just now. To some persons, they talk about owning the market of the food industry. They talk about owning the pharmaceutical industry. They're talking about owning the clothing industry, the rights, the patenting industry creation. Now here was the part that doesn't make sense. You come to my country and you realize I have the resources that you need, bountiful. Without my resources, you cannot survive. For simple example, without natural gas going to Europe from Russia, all Russia has to do is turn off that pipeline. Europe will freeze to death because there's no gas to heat their heaters in their homes. See what I mean? Russia takes advantage of that situation by doing what? Well, Putin realized that that is a nice advantage. Now he wants to sit down and invade Ukraine. So no matter how much America speaks, I'm using that as an example. No matter how much America speaks, no matter how much NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization speaks, which is combined of European countries, they can talk all they want. Wake up any day after tonight, Russia will invade Ukraine because he has a flag that he waves. Y'all touch me, all I gotta do is turn off the pipeline, no more gas. Y'all understand what I mean? So, when it comes to the African continent, there was a man that called Muammar Gaddafi from Libya. Gaddafi sat down and realized, well, they depend upon the resources of Africa, they depend upon the labor of Africa. And they realize the labor in Africa is worse than the labor in China because China still got to pay. In Africa is actually free. People are still being enslaved a day like today. Hmm. If I combine the African continent with countries and I say, hey, let's build an African Union. Let's create a dollar made out of pure gold. Let's create a currency, as a matter of fact, made out of three resources: gold, silver, and bronze. There's no more use for the greenback, that dollar with that ink printed, because you have to come with pure gold. There's a place that you call Fort Knox, and there's another place that you call the Royal Bank of England, which they say holds the largest deposits of gold. But here, that's a lie. The African continent today, like today, still holds the largest deposits of gold for the next 1,000 years to come. That's how rich Africa is. The continent of Africa. It is so rich, it has the largest, still has the largest deposit of gold. That's one. Number two, it's the only continent in the world that's above sea level. Everything else is under that. Y'all get my point where I'm coming from? To those who are listening. So look now at the Caribbean, which has the largest, one of the largest population of Africans living. I'm going to show you an example. We're going to use we're going to use the island of Haiti that is now it's in half because Haiti on one half and the Dominican Republic on the other half. That place is where I first went and experienced not cheap labor, slave labor, especially in the Dominican Republic. I saw people work so hard. I saw people work so hard for 24 hours a day. For 5 days to go home, take one day rest and come back and work for at least 500 to 600 pesos when the week come. Not when the day, when the week comes. When you look at 5 or 600 pesos, right? It's roughly, I'm looking at it in Guyana currency and then I'm switching at it in US currency. It's roughly about Hmm. But 1,500 Guyana dollars. Then you look at 1,500 Guyana dollars in US currency. So in US currency, that 1,500, $5 is 1,000. It can be like $7 and something cents they work for a week. When I was there, I gave a guy 300 pesos because this was like the change that I had as a tip because he worked very hard and to me, his Guyanese is nothing. So I gave it to him. And you better believe it. Every morning until before I left that hotel accommodation, he was there giving service because he just received half of his weekly salary, more than. So now we're looking at the black economics, the black dollar. We spend per capita worldwide $13 trillion. That's what the black economy is. $13 trillion. One continent alone spend 1 trillion. The next continent spends another one point something trillion. And the other continent, they reap at least $10 trillion from them. $10 trillion from them. That's how economically strong is the black dollar. Out of a place that called South Sudan. Alone, South Sudan is a $15 billion empire. 15 billion US dollars empire. Now let's turn to Guyana. If South Sudan is a $15 billion US dollars empire, that's how wealthy is that country. Exxon gave Guyana a receipt for 9.5 billion US dollars. Look and see how wealthy is Guyana. We surpass we surpass South Sudan by a distance. If our bill alone, one bill alone for expenditure for 2 years for an oil company, which is 9.5 billion US dollars, you could imagine what Guyana is worth. But the only way these companies enjoys these things is if the population remains poor. The population has to remain poor because it has to work and it has to keep on working. That's the only way that money can turn over. They have to show how the money is turning over. There's a budget pass of 520 something billion Guyana dollars. It is because the People's Progressive Terrorist Party knows that that money will turn over. We're getting to the point now. So I'm going to show you how that money turns over now. The COVID 19 task force sat down and tell themselves that by Barrett said the business community balling because the US Chambers of Commerce has their hands around their necks. So the local business community has to show how they acquire monies to the banking system during the COVID 19 pandemic. So the first thing the COVID 19 task force did is to open up all restrictions, all restrictions in every business area except for one, where you have to join the pool where they're saying you need to have at least half of the percentage of people in the pool at the same time. The pool is swimming pool which has water that washes off bacteria. Water is the only thing that can keep any type of bacteria away from you, the individual, from being infected. Water, because it cleans your outward appearance. They want to take you away from that and open up restrictions where you gotta go and sweat now when breathing each other's air and whatever's coming out of your mouth so you can be infected and become reinfected. That's what they're doing. Yesterday of all day, Sunday, they got a loudspeaker or a jukebox set up on a truck driving through the black area advertising Juvert or Juve, whatever you want to call it, on the 19th of this month. Big party, bacchanal. It ain't driving through the areas that doesn't care about partying and bubble down and crash down. It's driving through the areas that are predominantly black or Afro Guyanese because they know this is what attracts us. They know that. They know this is what attracts us. They know that is how they can get the black dollar to survive. Their business industry cannot survive without the black dollar. So it has to rotate the money. So here what we can do. We can get them a $14,000, I call it subscription benefit. We can get $25,000 per child because I know we got enough children. $25,000 per child money and a $5,000 voucher for school. So you know what happening there now? You know what happening there? So eventually now, what happens is that we are now lowered into the entertainment industry because that is how they make money off of us. The black dollar. They know we like eat, so the food industry gonna operate. And let me show you how it is so difficult. In all the areas where they have Chinese supermarket, they don't sell anything that is healthy for your consumption. So what happened? It's a lot of sugar on the Chinese shelf that is being sold. You check all the supermarkets, whether it be Chinese or not. 90% of the food that is being sold in the supermarket has sugar. So right away you being inflamed. Your rights to life, to eat that much health has been taken away from you by an industry. And what the workplaces does, like around Christmas time, they can give you a $80,000 voucher to go to that same supermarket and buy $80,000 worth in goods and produce that are unhealthy for you. They will never give you an $80,000 voucher to go to border market to the green sections or big market to the green sections. Or they're not going to send it to one of those co-ops on the East Coast or on the East Bank. No, they're going to give you a voucher to go directly to the supermarket. And they're going to make sure that your rights to natural food is no more. And with oil, they're going to capitalize on that market. The Ministry of Agriculture is going to say, you got to use fertilizers to put on your farm now, your products, in order to for your vegetation to sell. No more organic fertilizers. So even to the vegetation that you're buying is so heavily laden in chemicals that it doesn't even last for 24 hours. Imagine you got to cook that now and feed it to your children. They're taking away your rights. So just now you don't have a food security. So you got to spend, push your hand deep down in your pocket because there's no naturally grown produce anymore in Guyana. That's your food security. So they know They know the race that they're going to affect the black population because we got to eat. We don't want to think primitive. No, we don't want to think healthy. We're so primitive that we forgot that the way we will remain healthy is what we eat, what we consume, what goes into this digestive tract. You understand what I mean? So this is what is being done to us. Then the medical industry is going to give you now a what you call it a dietary supplement plan. They're going to give you some tabs to drink that are supplements, and they're going to give you some instructions to go and buy a particular type of food. So you will always remain unhealthy. A lot of people don't know that you're supposed to eat meat at least one time a week if you want to stay healthy. You got to use your senses to those who are looking. If beef takes 48 hours to digest within your system and chicken takes 24 hours, how you going to eat every single day chicken and beef? When these things digesting? When it ain't gonna digest. I'm telling you that. What will happen now? It will form gases within your system. It's going to use up the bacteria that is in it that is swollen. Then, whoops, here comes tapeworms, and your system full of it. If anyone you going to take an operation now, right now, to clean to clean out your digestive tubes, there's so much tapeworms there that that operation is a 60-40% because you might survive or sometimes you might not because there's so much tapeworm within you. Then here is the next part now. We coming back to the black dollar. We ain't coming off the track. They got to create within you now an understanding that you have to depend upon a society to feed you. So you're going to give you, imagine they're giving you a house lot which is 120 by 80. That's a huge house lot. Look at the land space. We are so difficult in understanding now. We can pave the whole land space. We ain't thinking about vegetation no more. Concrete right through. What happens after now? Nothing can plant. We can't survive on our own. We have to have money in our pocket. The piece of paper with the ink on it. All the time. That is our dependability on survival. It is to create within our minds that the only way you can survive is to have that dollar bill, that $5,000 and more in your pocket to survive when the day come. Because if you don't have it, you can't survive. So that dollar bill now makes us dependent upon it than independent. Planting is not hard. We have the soil. We have the soil. Hold on, Mr. Robert Prasad. I'm looking for you a little while now. Yes. Block, stop, and delete, Mr. Robert Prasad. You want people to move back to Africa? Mr. Robert Prasad. Oh, my guy. I tell you what. I can't vex with the fellow. Hey, to those who are in the comment section, yeah, I must abuse back. These people are a product of the system. You can't vex with them. That's all they know. We can't vex with them. This is all they know. They are a product of the system. These are the persons who would put the dollar bill inside the pot and cook it and eat it. Because this is all they know. They think that this is wealth. That's not wealth. Wealth is what I have up here now teaching you. The wealth of a man is not what he builds, gains, or buys. but the ability to change lives. And that's what I'm doing. See, I don't worry with these people. So let us don't forget now that the black dollar, these businesses cannot survive. If we now decide to turn back to the healthier way of life, well, these businesses cannot function. Let's be straight up. The only replenishable commodity on the shelves of every stores and supermarkets per day, it's alcohol and cigarette. Y'all get my point? And what these two things does to you, it is to kill your immune system. Alcohol, you die from cirrhosis liver. Cirrhosis liver. And those who doesn't know what cirrhosis liver is, well, imagine alcohol is a heat. And when it's consumed in large quantities, your liver can't filter it. You know what it does? It scorches it, burns it. So that's the name, cirrhosis liver. If you smoke continuous tobacco on a daily basis, some people smoke 2, 3 packs of cigarette. You die now. Now, yeah, that's how you die. You die from a lung infection because you're beating up the lung by smoking the tobacco. It's not designed to filter the tobacco, it is designed to filter the oxygen that you breathe in. And when you breathe it out, when you exhale, you inhale the oxygen. And you exhale CO2. Very pleasant evening. Thank you very much for calling the GMS Live Voice of Democracy, the GMS Live Radio Guyana. Go ahead. Hello. Yes, I think hold on a bit, please. Okay, yes, I'm correct. So, the black dollar, and the reason why I say the black dollar, it is because we are the largest consumable human beings on the face of this earth. We consume everything. Yeah, don't bother with the Chinese. We understand the Chinese. But the black races or the African race, we consume. So you got the alcohol and you got the cigarettes. Those are a replenishable item daily on every shop and supermarket worldwide. It's the only item that has the highest taxes, 33% taxation on every alcohol commodity. It's so brutal that there's taxes on the liquid, the content in the bottle, and there's taxes on the bottle that carries liquid. So for every Banks beer that you buy, you're paying $300 for the liquid, the content inside of the Banks beer, and then you're paying $10 on the bottle. Then, for every cigarette you buy, at the back of it mark, smoking is dangerous to health, but it's the largest replenishable item worldwide, along with the alcohol on a daily basis. Now, here the most shocking part. The other item that is far more replenishable than the alcohol and the cigarette, and that is like 3 or 4 times per day, it's replenishable. It's the narcotics. Yes. The narcotics, the illegal, they call it the illegal substance. Three times a day, four times a day, it becomes replenishable. Yeah. To those who are shocked, don't be shocked. Three to four times a day, that's a replenishable item. Who is it targeting? The black dollar. Yep, the black dollar. Check it out. I hope the education that the system that I've tried to explain to you had educated you enough tonight to let you know where our power stands. We can create our own economy. We can create our own dollar. That's how powerful is our replenishable system. We have a replenishable economic system that is embedded in us by our colonial masters. And we can take that same system and make our own money off of it. All we have to do is simple: buy black. You know, I had a discussion the other day with a fella, and he said, "But we ain't got black banks." And I said, "We do have black banks." He said, "Of course we got." I said, "Yes, we got black banks in Guyana. We got plenty of them." And he said, "But I didn't know. Mr. Matthews, tell me." I said, "I sure you grew up hearing about Baksan." He said, "Yes." I said, "That in itself is a bank. You know why? You have a combination of people joined together to give a certain amount of money when the month is come. And then they identify a month which they will draw their hand." I said, "You know what you call that?" He said, "No." I said, "That's banking." That is what it means. Boxan, it means banking. I come to you, I bank my money, and I demand when I want my money plus the others. That is also banking. It's what you call a turnover. I said, "We don't know it, but we've been turning over money since then." I said, "You know who practices that? The Chinese. But they call it pawning. You bring an item, you pawn money, and then you bring back the money and you get back your item. But the black dollar is so lucrative. We don't want items. We said, bring your cash. Oh, yes, the other person said credit unions. Yes, but throwing a box on is far more effective than the credit union. Believe you me, I'm not saying the credit union is bad, the credit union is good. But because the box on turns over the money, that's what it happens. It turns it over quickly. I can show you a simple instance. When I used to work taxi, the taxi service guys who were there had a daily box hand. Every day, at least two persons control a hand. That's how large was the box. I know how much it was every single day. They had to stop it at $100,000 because they said they can't go beyond that. People ain't able to wait till 10 days or 20 days to draw back a next hand because it was quickly turned over. Yes, it was $100,000. I got some people throwing three and four hand a day at $1,000. A man throwing four hands at $1,000, and you got a base. You got a base at over 140 drivers, and the $100,000 happened so fast that between 20 men, yes. So you could imagine the amount of hands one person throwing and how much times they drawing. Within 20 days, one man drawing $400,000. He's able to pay down on a car. That is what you call banking. And we love to do that in Guyana. I have known and heard households survived on box hand. Not the salary, box hand, because it was a sacrifice in order to have money in bulk. I have witnessed somebody gave witness that box hand helped build their house, not the bank, because they were able to bank within themselves. Banking is a community based initiative. To tell everybody, banking is what grows a community. If you throw a boxer within that community, it helps to grow the community because you all make sacrifice for one purpose and you keep the money among yourselves. That's how it grows. And you take the money and you invest it into consumable items and commodities. You don't keep it and put it at your bed. You reinvest so you can grow the money. You can't take your money, put it on your bed because the community wouldn't grow like that. You have to reinvest it. So some of us don't know what is reinvestment. We take the money, we go on and buy a $15,000 boots, a $20,000 jeans, on the top a pack of cigarettes and couple of beers, and that's it, it's done. We don't want to reinvest. Well, since we got the ability to bank, to make that sacrifice to buy garbage, then we can make that sacrifice to reinvest. We, the expenditures within the community arouses the strength of the black dollar. That is what I want to make sure that everybody understand. There are lots of people who are looking at this live stream and understand what I'm talking about. Thank you very much for calling the GMS Live Voice of Democracy and the GMS Live Radio Guyana. Go ahead.
Dr. Matthew,
Speaking.
you're speaking about the old days.
No, 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 sir.
The old days.
No, 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 no,
Wait.
no,
Let me
no, no,
speak.
sir. Here.
Hang on. You
This is
gotta
not.
give me. Let me speak, man. Let
Go
me
ahead,
speak.
go
Let
ahead,
me
go ahead,
speak.
go ahead.
You're speaking about the old days, and those days were effective. I can remember the days when I used to work at the post office, and people throw box, and they were able to build their house. They were able to complete a project in their home or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're speaking to the black community in Guyana.
Mm-hmm.
This conversation that you're having is not going to reach the mass because the world has changed in many ways, and people feel a sense of
Well then,
confidence. Habit. Wait,
well then, I
hang
need
on,
to
Robin,
finish.
Robin.
I need to finish what I'm
Yeah,
saying
wait,
first
You
because
will see it.
you're going
You will.
into
I
what I
will
want
see
to
it.
complete.
Give
Uh-huh.
me a second.
Hmm.
And they feel a sense of accomplishment or a sense of confidence having a debit or a credit card in their hand whereby they can or going into these public institutions like the banks,
Hmm.
to withdraw money, to deposit money, etc. Now, I think this message should be tailored, and it will take um, leaders, whether political leaders, community leaders, to go into these black villages and preach that kind of a method. Box, and it can't be on a macro level. It has to be on a micro level.
Hmm.
The world has changed, and I think that is a good way in which black people can, because it's very difficult for the black people to go into the bank and get money. They
Yes, it
can't pay
is.
the interest rate. They're not qualified because whatever reason.
Hmm.
So it is, and boxing can be easily turned around because sometimes you can throw multiple hands at the same time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's what you were saying. But I think what you were saying, it is still effective, even though it is outdated. But it would take political leaders who understand what you were saying and say, what happened? How can we get our people to save their money wisely
Hmm.
and strategically? And that is something that I think people in the black community, like the villages, they would gravitate towards that
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it's very, very effective. Another thing you were promoting, I think, was wise earlier. You talked about, accomplishing a piece of land, and again, we want to look modern. Nobody wants to go back to the garden and plants and stuff, but it's important. We
Mhm.
have the soil, and most people want the yard to be tiled. They want the yard to be concrete, so there's no space for greenery. But the
Mhm.
world is recognizing that today, because all of these things, if we do not have the green space, it is contributing to a change in the climate.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if you can promote that again, take that same approach also in terms of providing your own food.
Mhm.
That's a way in which you also add into your pocket by saving money. You
Mhm.
know, and the rain is free, the land is free, the ground is already fertile.
Mhm.
It's a way in which you save money that can contribute towards other developments in your life.
Of
You know.
course. Of course. Of course. But I want to thank you very much for calling because you kind of chipped into my my ending piece. But it's good to know that you're thinking and you're able to call and to contribute. So stay safe, be careful. Okay?
You, Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now, as I was saying, so the Barbadian Prime Minister, and the reason why, I'm a man like give Jackie jacket unless because I just don't like Maya. Believe you me, for the things that she came to Guyana and did, I just don't like Maya. But I'm showing you how she is. I'm showing you how she is constantly careful for the Barbadians of that island, that republic that she governs as prime minister. Let me show you how she's so careful. She gave a speech in the Barbadian parliament and she talked to the banking system. She said to them that they had no business mining my business, how I gain my money. If I gain it by boxing or by they have no business looking into our money. They need to mind their own business and develop proper borrowing strategies for Barbadians, especially those like herself. So we can come to Guyana now. We can develop those same primarily attributes for Guyana. Republic Bank don't give you loans as it should. The only time they give you loans is match time. And the time hits and jams promoting where is it? Carnival. This is the only time. Yes, y'all come by 300, 400,000. And the thing is that they ain't giving you the money cash to spend. They're giving you something like a voucher system. You identify the stores that you want to go into, and then you go there and you buy your items. That's how they did it the last time. And you buy your tickets and all of that because they want you to not spend money on things that they're not going to receive back. They want you to spend money on things that they're going to receive back. So they're working with institutions. You can imagine Republic Bank and Scotia Bank working with the entertainment industry to make sure that you stay in the poverty line. Imagine that $300,000 when you're done carnival, you're broke. Can't even feed your household. Can't feed your children. You can't even go to work. Y'all see what I'm talking about? How powerful is the black dollar? I know I pinch your nerve tonight, but we are the only people on the face of this earth that is heavily consumers of everything they push forward to. They got some ethnic racists going to turn around and say, "What? Me drinking? Here is a laugh. I want to show you how they got this thing is real stupidness. There are those in South Africa that calls themselves the Afrikaners. Afrikaners, the Caucasians. You know, you can't go into their community and promote the kind of drugs we consume from the drugstore and the doctors prescribing certain things. You can't go into their community and do that. They want nothing with that. They depend upon the herbs of the field. You can't go into their community and open up a supermarket. You got to be one of the own, and the things on your shelf got to be beneficiary to them health wise. Understand what I'm talking about? You can't go there and sell it to me. You can't go there and make money. So imagine, and the reason why I'm saying this, imagine, I want you to look and see what I'm saying. Let us use the railway embankment. No, let us use East and West Front Road in Georgetown, Guyana. Look at the kind of houses that people live in there. It's kind of little dilapidated. It's small. It has old wood. Some of them look very strong structures. Some of them look very weak. And you think those people who are living in there are poor? No, they're not. Hundreds of millions of dollars pass through their houses when the week and month come. You know why? They are the largest consumers of everything. Sometimes you pass and you see a Range Rover park up in front of one of them same houses. You know why? They can afford it because of the monies that pass through that home. So you could imagine a combination of homes, families coming together to pool their money so one or the other, one to the other can achieve not only supremacy, but to achieve a level that they're satisfied with when you pool your monies together. When you do that, like a box hand, you erase criminal activity. There's no use or need for somebody to run around going and snatch somebody's chain because you're stealing from your own pockets. It is your dollar that is invested into that. So when you go and snatch somebody's chain, who chain you think you're snatching is your own, guys, you money that you put there invest to make it. So why should you want to steal? Hmm? If I invest for the sake of my family, I know they wouldn't go hungry at a specific period of time because as I invest in my sacrifice, my hard earned labor, my family is my reward. So they can grow healthy in the neighborhood with respect. Nobody can take advantage of them. Nobody takes advantage of them, or nobody takes advantage of your children or the other children because you know why? It becomes a sacrifice. That's how the banking system works. You go into certain established neighborhood, you can't go there with your lawless behavior because you know why? They establish a wealth among themselves. That's how a community grows. That's how it works. So if the banking system fails you, if the banking system fails you, believe you me, hold on, I gotta end this call. If the banking system fails you, the community system can't fail you. You understand? If the banking system fails you, the community can't fail you. And that's a good way to work on what I was talking about just now. Let me make this call that was coming in so the person who was calling can get to understand that I was basically making an adjustment to my speech. So as we get the person online just now, this is the GMS Live calling you back. Good night to you.
Thank you, Gavin. How are you doing?
Well, I'm always educative, always educative.
Yes. Yes. You're always willing to inform the Guyanese people of different, uh, you know, synopsis, um, you know, educated facts that really is educated. For us to, even though we, as the previous caller said, we times have changed,
Hmm.
but we still have to remember these things work for us. It worked in the past, and it could still work
Yes, it can
with you.
still work.
Right? If and as you said, a few banks, they're not willing to lend certain people money.
Mm.
We know of systems where we can help ourselves
Of
and keep
course,
the money within the communities.
of course.
Help yourselves,
You call it
right?
cooperative community banking.
For us. Now,
Yes.
when she that they have no business finding out how she acquire her money. Did she
Mhm.
really say that? I won't listen to her. Did she really say that, Gavin?
I didn't get to hear most of what you said. Somebody was trying to call in, so it cut your calls. It cut.
Okay, did she really, when she addressed her parliament, did she really say, address the bank and telling them they're to mind their own business, they shouldn't find out how she make her money?
No, what Miss Motley was actually trying to say is
Mm,
that there are banking institutions, when people go to bank their monies,
mm,
they are watching how you bank your money. Their business is on
mm,
your money instead of investing to
mm.
make investing the monies that people bank to make
Yeah.
communities stronger so loans can be properly acquired. There are too many questions are being asked, so she's a little
Okay.
offended by it. You understand?
Okay.
So
Oh,
I'm I was
I know sometimes people get heated when you're paying your loan, or
right.
you're almost done with your loan, but they, because I know of personal, I'm not sure which bank it is. The person told me they finished paying for the loan through the
Hmm.
bank, and the bank, this is Guyana, this is recent, they want to hold on his transport for what reason I don't know. They want to hold his transport even though he's done with the loan. You see, if God forbid he passed away, his family have problems in finding the transport. The bank hold on it, sell the property, and that's it. But this is not the direction I'm going.
Hmm.
The real direction I wanted which is very, very important, and it's dangerous. Mia, people keep saying she went to this university, whatever, and she's smart and so on. She should know better.
Hmm.
If Barbados wants uh to comply with international standards
Hmm.
in terms of making sure your records are correct, you don't have drug dealers' money in the bank. You should
Hmm.
know that's the reason why they want to know what is what. Now,
Hmm.
I'm saying this because Mia exited, or she take Barbados, or she wanted to Barbados to be a sovereign or independent nation.
Hmm.
She knows why. Mia knows why. Because when all those funds or her payback she come to Guyana to get, when she
Well,
bank those
I get your
monies,
point, but
exactly,
let us stick
exactly,
on the black dollar. I understand. I
very
understand.
well.
I understand.
Gavin.
Let me stick for
I,
the
I
black dollar.
let me stick on the black dollar. But this is the thing. People got to stop being too gullible and
Hmm.
read between the lines. Gavin, have a
Hmm.
good night.
Okay, then.
You're doing
Thank
a
you.
good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for
You're welcome.
calling.
Bye bye.
Hmm. Okay. I think I just deleted this guy. I just blocked him. I don't know you. Oh, there's another one. This is Paul Passad. Oh, Guyanese blacks have already beaten into the submission, so there is no hope for them. I tell you, these people, believe you me, there are some persons you can see the racism in their responses. They don't want you like Paul Passad. You know, let me put it up. Let me show you where this guy just put up. See, we take a good read. He said Guyanese blacks already beaten into submission, so there's no hope for them. You can imagine that. You know, it's like you live in a world that don't matter how much people say, oh, let's become brothers, let's stand by side. The reason why I'm here all the time on this, the GMS Live Voice of Democracy, it is because I want to make sure that we are a part of that privileged economy. So we cannot be lower than the other one. We're all at the same stage. That is what I want for Guyanese, especially those of the African community. We must be a part of that privileged economy. And this that I'm telling you about is the only way forward for us. The black dollar. We need to understand we have a currency. We spend it every single day. Invest it into your community. And whilst you invest it into your community, tell the person that you're investing it into is to help him or her to rise just like you. We need to help each other. That's what I do now. When I go into stores or shops that are owned by African Guyanese and I spend my dollar, I said, I come here. Sometimes I don't even ask the price. I said, I come here to spend my money because I want you to grow. I identify with them because we are being far too long living in a racist system. We are being enslaved mentally, physically. 600 years have passed. Y'all don't bother with Paul Prasad. I done delete Paul Prasad. Delete and block Paul Prasad. And still counting. And we're still fighting for civility to coexist as a privileged group of people. We're still doing that. I want to say to you, as a Guyanese, as an African Guyanese, or as an Aboriginal Guyanese, or original, how you want to put it over, is that I want to keep on educating you to let you know that our culture must not be entertainment. Our culture is not entertainment. People must not look at us to do prostitution, crime, gun running, security, drugs. No, when you look at the black man, you may say, well, here, I can't give you this job because of his stature, his privileged stature. That's how they identify us in the PPP. You hear Charles Ramson Jr.? He talked about it on 94.1 FM, a black owned, black run station. Sat there and had the audacity to talk about black villages has no role model. That's how disrespectful they be. And we want to line up behind him. for him to help to promote a sports center or a sports ground so we could feel nice, we could diddle daddle. We can come and watch football, kick, drink two beer, beat up, cause down somebody, and go on home and feel nice and talk about it on social media next day. That system we need to erase out of our own system because it has been put there from since birth. Brothers and sisters, Guyanese all, stop putting your children in front of the television. The television can educate them. Stop putting the cell phone in front of their faces because that cannot entertain them, educate them either. Put them in front of a book. Teach them to read, understand, and comprehend. That is the best way forward. Sit and have family talks with them. Teach them. And most of all, respect your women. I want to make it absolutely clear tonight since I'm on this show. Black men, respect your black woman. Show her love. You ever telling ya, you and I are not a man without a woman. Neither the woman a woman without a man. That's not how God didn't create it to be singular. He created it to be plural. Man and woman. Respect your woman folk. Show them respect, show them love. Not for everything you do or say is to capitalize upon their weakness and turn them into things that they shouldn't be. Let's start doing that. I want to say thank you to all those who've joined in tonight. Black love it is. Remember that I have the jerseys, the t-shirts. As a matter of fact, it is $30 each, 30 US dollars each, which is 6,000 Guyana dollars. There are pens, cups, hats, clothing, and lingerie. Lingerie is by my better half. So it depends upon, the kind of styles that she would see to put it in, but the prices can be there unless you call the 6210197 number for those orders. The Greenleaf Distributors is active. I got some orders today for some organic vegetables. That's what Greenleaf Distributors is for organic, everything organic, even to the chicken we're providing. Into the feed is not so chemicalized. We try to make it as much as organic. We call it meat bird. So I want to promote these things to you that we need to control our black dollar. So black love to you all. Please call the number 6592-621-0197 to place your orders. I want to say to you to stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, wear a mask. Sanitization is clean. And sanitize doesn't mean the spray that you sprayed in your hand only. It means soap and water. That's the best sanitization you can find. Soap and water. It means have constant baths to keep the bacteria away from you. Constant bath, wear clean clothes. That will work. So I want to say to you again, stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, wear a mask. Don't forget the little ones you take into public places. Black love. Black love to you all. This is Dr. Matthews. Cheerios for now.